Hello friends, welcome back to the Cantor's Corner. This week we read in Parshah Vayetzei how when Jacob was on his trip to Harana, he chose to camp at a place adjacent to a location. When he camped out, he used a rock for a pillow and promptly fell asleep. In his dream, he saw messengers from God moving up and down a ladder, and at that time heard God's voice reiterating to him the covenant that he had with his ancestors concerning the multitudes of his progeny and the land that they will inherit. Upon waking, Jacob's realization was that God was present in this place, and I did not know it. Now, surely, in our age where information keeps moving faster and faster, we should be acutely aware of the issues in our community and in our society. However, one community has been suffering since before our nation was founded, and whose collective voice has been silenced for generations. I'm sure that you're all aware of the massacres and atrocities our nation committed against Native Americans. While today we technically treat Native Americans better than we did in the 17th through 19th centuries, however, that's not saying much. We still have much to improve. For example, I want to tell you a story about the Shoshone tribes in Death Valley, California. They were awarded compensation for their land, and the money, about $140 million, was placed in the U.S. Treasury as a trust. In 2004, however, Congress passed an act taking all of that money away from the tribes to be distributed to individual Native Americans, irrespective of their tribal affiliations. Congress created their own rules as to who should be receiving the money, and none of it went to any of the Western Shoshone tribes. The tribes filed a suit in 2010, but the U.S. government argued that the Timbisha Shoshone Tribal Council couldn't file suit unless the council was recognized by the U.S. government. Of course, the Department of the Interior removed its recognition of the tribal council. When the case was appealed, the Interior Department argued that it could do away with any tribal government in order to prevent it from suing the U.S. government. I am not making this stuff up. While there is no law in the book stating as such, the argument was accepted and the case was dismissed in 2012. The tribes continue to fight for that money to this day. Without proper access to medical care, life expectancies and infant mortality rates at reservations are appalling at places like Pine Ridge Reservation. They are the worst of any group in the Western Hemisphere. The adolescent suicide rate is 4 times higher than the national average, and the infant mortality rate is 5 times higher than the national average. Alcoholism is rampant, and 1 out of every 4 kids is somewhere on the fetal alcohol syndrome disorder spectrum. Most of our nation is also perfectly happy to have Native American slurs featured prominently in sports, such as the Washington Redskins or our very own Cleveland Indians with its equally offensive logo, Chief Wahoo. We know this is an issue, but what are we to do about it? We can make our voices heard. We can ask the 2 aforementioned sports teams to permanently alter their names, their mascots, their logos, and their attitudes. We can volunteer for or donate to the Native American Rights Fund or to the Indian Law Resource Center. Both are focused on the rights of indigenous peoples, including their right to vote. If you remember, in 2013, a key provision of the Voter Rights Act was struck down because the Supreme Court deemed it unnecessary. We heard plenty about how it could impact the right to vote for plenty of African Americans and other minorities, but no mention was ever made of the swaths of Native Americans that were also impacted by that decision. We can appeal to our state and federal governmental officials, reminding them that our Constitution guarantees equal protection under the law. We, as Jews, are too aware of what can happen when a people's collective voice is silenced. Let's work together to ensure that their voices are heard.